Hey, what's going on, guys? It's James here. Today I want to make a video making a percussive patch on the Mother-32. So to do this, I want to use the voltage input source to help modulate the frequency of the synthesizer, and then use the envelope generator as kind of a source to modulate that frequency to get almost like a percussive blip at the beginning of more of like a bass note. So without further ado, let's look at the synthesizer here and let's get into this. Alright, so to kind of set this up here, this is kind of the basic patch that you'd find, like, always start off with just a regular saw wave. So, nothing too special there, pretty simple. But, so let's see, right now we're going to set up a little bit of a filter. So I'm going to bring the cutoff down, I'm going to bring the resonance up, put the VCF mod at 100%, put the VCA mode on. You're going to start to hear a little bit of a hum. That's normal. And we can kind of leave that the way that is now, but if we listen to it, we kind of have that little bit of a filter sweep now. So it's got kind of a really fat filter on it, and now we kind of have that bass portion of the sound set up. So now we can kind of start to mess around with the frequency and everything involved with the sound. So if we use the patch bay here, what we can do, you're going to need 3 patch cables for this. The first thing I want to do is take the envelope generator, so that's these dials here, and I want to attach the output of that to the second mix input of our VC mix here. So the VC mix, if you don't know, is basically a fader that goes between either 2 sources, the mix 1 and mix 2, or ground in a mix 2, or mix 1 and a full 12-volt signal. So essentially you can have 2 different inputs and pen in between them, or use it as a whole other knob because it outputs voltage by itself even if there's nothing connected. So that's why I'm connecting it to the mix 2, because that way if the mix is all the way turned to the left, there is no mix 2, it's just ground, so it's going to completely turn off any effects coming from the envelope generator input. So now if we take the output of our VC mix and we patch that up to our VCO 1-volt octave selection here, we're going to start to get kind of that percussive element if we listen to that here. So we're going to play around with the filter once we start listening to it to kind of tune in the percussive elements of this sound. So right now our VC mix is all the way, like I said, left, so there's nothing in the mix 1, so there's no effect being transmitted by this cable into our octave modulation. But if we start to bring in the VC mix here, for example, I'll turn it all the way up, now we play. It almost just sounds like an old like 80s style movie with the laser guns or something like that. So that VC mix control really allows you to dial in how much of the effect you're using, which is really convenient for kind of tuning your sound, because you can choose how much of the effect you want, and you can also attach that to a different CV source, and which we'll actually do here in a second, to kind of make the sound change by itself by using another modulation source. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to patch the LFO triangle, and I'm going to go into the VC mix control. Now essentially what the VC mix control option does is that's a almost behind the scenes parameter that allows you to modulate this VC mix wheel without actually turning it. So you can use another source as a voltage kind of input to turn this knob without actually having to turn it. So right now this knob is being turned in a sense by the LFO. So if we leave the LFO kind of all the way down, it's going to slowly give some of that percussive effect and then take some away as the LFO kind of goes up and down. So as the LFO goes up, the effect will become more intense, and as the LFO comes back down, then the effect will become less noticeable. So we'll leave the VC mix at about 50%. That's kind of, a good amount of bass sound and the percussive element. Now if we listen to that. So now we can start to play with the envelope to kind of tune this sound a little bit better. So if we turn the decay down here, I'm going to turn it to, I don't know, about 10%. So you can hear there's a little bit of that pluck at the beginning of the note, and as we kind of turn this VC mix up a little bit, that effect becomes more pronounced. And if we listen kind of closely, let's see, I'll actually start up the sequencer here. we turn the LFO up, we turn the VC mix, you can hear how the LFO is now modulating how much of that effect is being introduced into the sound. So you can kind of, like I said, without having to turn knobs and everything, you can kind of make the sound evolve over time using that LFO. So, if you put that like ever so slightly above like, 1%-ish, it'll kind of slowly change the sound over time and add a little bit more of that effect. And then you can offset how much of that effect is being introduced by turning this VC mix knob. So you can really kind of get crazy with this sound by just kind of messing around with that envelope and that VC mix and LFO, because those are kind of the main sources of kind of information that's causing the sound to happen. So as you guys kind of play around with those, like I said, it's going to really change the sound, and you can create a lot of cool effects. You kind of heard there, you can have that kind of like sci-fi laser beam, or just a little bit of almost like a percussive hit at the beginning of a bass note, or you could have something that's kind of something completely different depending on what you use. Instead of using the LFO as your modulation source for that VC mix, you could use something like the noise generator or something to get some really interesting sounds. So, I thought that this patch was really cool, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to leave a link in the description below of there's a site that actually a Reddit user told me about that allows me to really show you guys kind of the final patch with a website tool. So I'll leave a screen cap, a link to a screen cap in the description below, so you guys can see exactly all the settings and everything required to make the sound. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.